Thank you, Gustav. Thank you, members of the Swedish National Council on Medical Ethics. Dear distinguished speakers, dear all guests gathered for this seminar in real life, but also mainly electronically at a distance. I want first of all to express my gratitude for having been given the prize. I must confess, however, that even if I am delighted, I do not take the prize too personally. I realize that what has been prized is a style of presenting in a critical and systematic manner bioethical questions to a broad audience, rather than the content of my messages sent out over the last 30-odd years. At the very beginning in 1989, when I started doing this in public, I was met with fierce resistance. It was not so much that people disagreed with what I had to say, which I would have welcomed, but rather that they didn't want to hear anything about the sensitive topics I discussed. The leader of a political party wanted me sacked from my position as associate professor of practical philosophy at Stockholm University. I felt a bit alone. However, I did not take the resistance too personally either. Again, what was then disliked was my style of doing bioethics in public, not my message in particular, nor let alone me as a person. Now the situation is entirely different. Many Swedish philosophers, some of them present here today, some of them my former students, carry on the task of presenting publicly their critical and systematic views on sensitive bioethical issues, and they are not being read out of court. Quite to the contrary, they are being taken seriously. Since they are many, they also disagree publicly. This means a huge gain for the subject matter, bioethics, but also and mainly for the public at large, who can reach a deeper understanding of the problems facing us. The public is invited to engage with us in the discussions, and this is possible since one of the hallmarks of the kind of bioethical discourse I speak of is that it is mundane and easy to grasp for anyone. This prize has allowed me, as you were told, effortlessly to arrange with this seminar. I mean, this is terrific, this is cool. A big thank goes to Mikael Löwrup and the other organizers of the seminar. I know you're used to this, arranging seminars in this way. To me, it's the first time in my life. It is superfluous to argue that the topic, priority setting in situations of mass casualty, is a timely one. So rather than doing so, I will indicate a few issues I hope the seminar will shed some light on. First of all, we have the general and abstract problem of priority setting in situations of scarcity. What do ethical theories tell us? I have argued that there is more convergence in real-life settings than one would perhaps have expected. Different theories, at least all reasonable ones, reach an overlapping consensus. Am I right about this? I'm curious to know. Let us look closer at some examples. What if two patients compete for the only available life-saving equipment, say a ventilator? To whom should the ventilator go? According to Swedish legislation, as I understand it, if they have both a vital need of the ventilator, we should flip a coin. According to a report mentioned just by the chairman here, from the National Board of Health and Welfare, roughly speaking, the ventilator should be given to the one who will, if taken care of, survives for the longest time. This means all other things equal to the younger one. Which way can be supported by the strongest reasons? I tend to believe all reasonable theories point in the same direction to the younger patient. Will these moral conjectures stand up to critical examination during this day? What about healthcare personnel? Should they be given priority? Should you also look at the supply side of medical resources? No, according to the Swedish Parliament. The National Board of Health and Welfare is silent on this issue. My conjecture, all reasonable theories converge on an affirmative answer to the question. Let's see if that stands up to reason. Vaccination strategies. Should we try to defeat the virus or attempt at harm reduction, globally and nationally? It seems that the standard answer now is harm reduction among one's own population. The vaccine should go first to those who are most at risk. What does that mean? It is often interpreted as the person for whom, if infected, the probability of death is highest. But should we not also look at the probability of being infected? And also perhaps at the degree to which it is possible to avoid being infected, which is easier for a retired person like me, for example, than it is for a taxi driver. And what are we to say about the lifetime saved if instant death is avoided? Should an old, fragile person count as heavily as a young person? In the context of vaccination, we meet with a special problem of children, much discussed in these days. Even small children are vaccinated in some nations, such as the US. I saw that France is also going down that road. Small children are not vaccinated in other nations, such as Sweden. Why not? It has to be in the strict medical interest of the child to receive the vaccine, it is claimed, when they are denied vaccination. A narrow cost-benefit analysis is not in their favor, it is claimed. But what about the group? What about the need to keep the schools going? What about the interest of children not being feared by their teachers and the elderly, us grandparents, for example? Are these legitimate public health concerns? Or should we look exclusively to the individual medical needs in abstraction from social context? My conjecture, all reasonable theories will converge on the broad interpretation of what is in the interest of the children, allowing me to having contact with my grandchildren. Sweden has opted for a comparatively lenient general approach to the pandemic. The idea has been to count in the moral calculus not only the number of deaths among the elderly, but also the quality of life of the young population. Is this a reasonable public health strategy? This is, I admit, a thorny issue. Finally, when the pandemic strikes again, as it does right now, more focus is on coercive measures. Where should we draw the line between legitimate and illegitimate coercion in public health? Vaccination passports, legal sanctions against those who remain unvaccinated, the use of force when people resist. My moral conjecture, we have, with vaccination passports, reached a moral limit. Will this assessment of mine survive critical scrutiny today? Dear all, these are a few only examples of questions on which I hope you will help to shed light during this day. Again, thank you for the prize. Thank you for the possibility of arranging this seminar. I now leave the floor back to Gustav Arrhenius to introduce our two first speakers, two of my favorite moral philosophers, in particular when they operate, as they do today, in tandem. Katarzyna de Lazari Radek and Peter Singer. Forgive me, Katja, for the przepraszam for the poor pronunciation of your name. Okay.
I think we're going to have a long question period, but we can take one question now. I'm going to ask you one question I think is pertinent given that you're getting this Lifetime Award. How come you started working in this field? What pulled you in?
It was just something that happened because technicalities with our schedule. We had a person doing bioethics, medical ethics, Lars Eriksson of Stockholm University, and he didn't want to keep going with it. So Harald Ofsa said, you must take this course. And then I had to start learning about the topic, of course. And then Peter's writing and influence, and Peter and Helga Kuser and other people became enormously important to me in my apprentice period.
And then you got stuck there, and then
I got stuck there. It has also to do, of course, with the fact that I'm married to a nurse. So we together have been discussing these matters.
But it was nothing personal that happened in your life, a family member?
No, nothing of the kind.
Not. Okay, thank you very much.